I wasn't supposed to stay more than one night. It was meant to be a quick visit, drop off Mom's birthday gift, say hi to the family, and head back to the city. But when my train got delayed, and my phone died halfway through a desperate attempt to call a rideshare, I found myself on the curb outside a station in the pouring rain, with my stepbrother, Ryan, pulling up in that loud black Jeep of his. "Hop in, you drowned rat," he smirked through the window, his voice smooth and careless, the kind that made you both roll your eyes and lean in a little closer. I hadn't seen him in almost a year. Ryan was always the reckless one, half the time shirtless, all the time smug. We were never particularly close growing up. More like orbiting planets forced into the same atmosphere after our parents married. But even back then, something unspoken buzzed in the silence between us. Something we both pretended not to notice. Now he looked older. Sharper jawline, leaner frame, and tattoos that snuck past his sleeves like secrets half-whispered. I got in the car, water trailing down my jacket. He reached over and flicked a droplet off my cheek with his thumb. "Still soft," he said, his grin playful teasing. "Didn't think you'd ever come back." "Didn't plan to," I muttered, eyes straight ahead. The ride to his place, our parents' place, though they were on vacation, was quiet, filled with the hum of tires on wet asphalt and music vibrating low through the speakers. Something ambient, moody. Fitting. Inside, he tossed me a towel, told me to take the guest room upstairs. The house smelled like old wood and citrus cleaning spray. It hadn't changed. We settled into the living room after I showered. A movie played on the flat screen, some B-grade thriller he insisted I'd like. I only half-watched. Ryan lounged next to me on the couch, too close. Our arms brushed once. Twice. I shifted. He didn't. "Still with Nathan?" he asked, casually, like we were catching up over beers instead of barely speaking for months. I nodded. "Yeah. 2 years next month." "Cute." He the jealous type. I turned to him. "Why would you ask that?" He shrugged. "Just wondering what kind of guy puts up with you ghosting him for a family weekend. And if he knows you're sharing space with someone way better looking." I laughed dryly. "Wow. Subtle." Ryan winked. "I've grown." Later, in the kitchen, he moved behind me to reach for a glass. His hand grazed the small of my back. Too slow to be accidental. My breath caught. I told myself it meant nothing. Just Ryan being Ryan. Back in the guest room, I closed the door and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I checked my phone, 3 missed messages from Nathan, all variations of "miss you," "how's it going," and a picture of his half-eaten dinner with the caption "wish you were here." Guilt tugged, but it didn't land fully. I texted back a vague "all good." "Tired? Talk tomorrow?" I tossed the phone on the nightstand and sat on the edge of the bed. The sheets were crisp, the room too quiet. From the hallway, I heard the creak of floorboards, then the sound of the shower turning on in the master bath. I shouldn't have opened the door. But I did. Just a crack. Steam curled out through the narrow gap. I heard water striking tile, and through the blurred glass wall, I caught a glimpse of him. Ryan. Back turned, head tilted, water sliding down his spine. He moved like someone who knew they were being watched. I shut the door quickly, heart racing, ashamed at how long I'd lingered. Back in bed, I stared at the ceiling. I told myself again, it meant nothing. It was late. I was tired. Everything feels more intense at night. And yet, I couldn't stop replaying that moment. Not the shower, but the earlier one. The touch in the kitchen. His voice when he said "still soft." The way his fingers had paused just a second too long. The worst part? I didn't want it to stop. There was something electric about being near him. Dangerous. Like leaning over the edge of something tall and not pulling back. And Nathan, God, I loved Nathan. I did. But lately things felt routine. Comfortable but not alive. Ryan was the opposite of routine. I turned onto my side, pulling the blanket over my shoulder. But sleep didn't come. Just his face. His smirk. That half-mocking, half-inviting stare. And the haunting question I refused to ask myself. What would I do if he actually crossed the line? Something woke me. Not a sound exactly, more like a shift in energy. The kind that prickles along your skin before you even open your eyes. My phone screen glowed faintly on the nightstand. 2:43 a.m. The house was still. No wind. No footsteps. Just the quiet hum of distant traffic, barely audible through the windows. Then I heard it. A soft knock. 3 quick taps, like hesitation wrapped in confidence. Before I could respond, the door creaked open. "Still awake?" Ryan's voice, low, just above a whisper. He stepped into the dim room without waiting for permission. A sliver of hallway light framed his body, bare chest, loose pajama pants slung low, hair tousled like he hadn't slept either. "I couldn't," he said, moving to sit at the foot of the bed. "The silence messes with me." I sat up slowly, heartbeat picking up. "You have a whole house. Why here?" He shrugged, staring at the floor. Didn't feel like being alone. The silence stretched between us, too thick to be ignored. My breath slowed, shallow. I could smell the faint scent of his soap, clean, minty, and warm. "I've been thinking," Ryan said, finally looking at me, eyes darker in the low light. "About earlier. About us." "There is no us," I replied too quickly. He laughed once, quietly. "You sure about that?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. Ryan shifted closer, his thigh brushing mine through the blanket. "You felt it too. Back then. Tonight. Don't lie." I hated that he was right. I hated that I hadn't stopped him from walking in. But more than anything, I hated the way my body leaned toward him without permission. "You're my stepbrother," I said, my voice small, brittle. That never stopped the feeling. He reached up and tucked a piece of hair behind my ear, soft, careful. His fingers lingered, tracing the edge of my jaw, thumb brushing against my cheek. "I have a boyfriend," I whispered. "I know," he said. "But you're here. With me." I closed my eyes. The air between us tightened. I could feel the weight of the choice hovering just inches from my lips. "You don't have to pretend," Ryan murmured. "Not right now." And then he kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It was quiet, deliberate. The kind of kiss that didn't ask, it claimed. My hands didn't push him away. They pulled him closer. In that moment, the outside world fell away. Nathan didn't exist. Consequences didn't exist. Just the taste of Ryan's mouth and the warmth of his skin and the ache that had been building for years, finally crashing through the dam. His hands were all over me, confident, knowing, but careful. Like he'd memorized this moment before it even happened. I wanted to stop, but I didn't. I wanted to say no, but I didn't. I wanted to pretend it was a dream, but it wasn't. It was real. All of it. The way he pulled me into him like we'd done this 100 times. The way I let him. Somewhere between breaths, I whispered his name. Not in protest. Not in shame. Just a whisper, like surrender. When it was over, we lay still. Neither of us speaking. Our bodies cooling against the sheets. Ryan sat up first. Ran a hand through his hair. His expression unreadable. "I shouldn't have," he started, then stops. "I'll go." He stood, pulled on his shirt and paused at the door. "I meant it," he said. Whatever that was, I meant it. And then he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him. I lay there, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling. Every nerve felt raw. Every thought was a scream behind glass. I betrayed Nathan. I crossed a line I could never uncross. But the worst part wasn't the guilt, it was the longing. The way my skin still burned where Ryan had touched me. The way his words echoed louder than my conscience. What did that say about me? What kind of person lets something like that happen, and wants more? I turned to the side, curled under the blanket, and tried to breathe. I didn't sleep. Not a second. I just lay there, haunted by what I'd done. And terrified by the part of me that didn't regret it. Morning came like punishment. The sun pierced through the blinds too sharply, as if the universe itself had opened its eyes to watch me unravel. I didn't move for a long time. Just lay there in the same bed where everything had changed a few hours earlier, listening for footsteps in the hallway. But the house was silent, eerily so. No clinking dishes. No shuffling. No Ryan. I finally sat up, body aching in ways I didn't know were possible. My reflection in the mirror looked like someone else. Someone raw. Tired. Haunted. I showered with the water turned to scalding, hoping it might burn away the memory of last night. It didn't. If anything, it etched it deeper. Ryan was gone when I made it downstairs. No note. No coffee. Just his absence, thick and deliberate. I texted Nathan. Morning. Miss you. I'll call later. It was pathetic. A bandage over a wound I caused. His reply came quickly. Miss you too. Hope everything's okay. Nothing was okay. But I typed yeah, just tired, and hit send. I wandered through the house in a haze, each room brimming with memory. I half expected Ryan to appear in the doorway, smirking like none of it mattered. But the hours passed, and he didn't show. When he finally walked in just past noon, he looked normal. Hoodie pulled over his head, takeout bag in hand, keys jingling lazily in his grip. Like nothing had happened. He raised an eyebrow. You eat yet? I shook my head, unsure what to say. Cool, he said, setting the bag on the counter. I got too much pho. Help yourself. And just like that, he was peeling off his hoodie, tossing it over a chair, moving around the kitchen like any other day. I followed, heart in my throat. Ryan, about last night? He paused, fingers tightening around a chopstick. We don't have to talk about it, he said. Not coldly. Not dismissively. Just tired. I think we do. He turned to me, eyes soft but guarded. Look, I'm not gonna pretend I didn't want it. I did. I still do. But I'm not here to screw up your life. So if you want to forget it happened, fine. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. Do you want to forget it? I asked, voice low. He didn't answer. Just handed me a container of soup, our fingers brushing too long. The days that followed blurred into one long ache. We tiptoed around each other, trading glances like secrets, speaking too formally, like strangers. But the tension never left. It was in the way he stood too close when reaching past me in the kitchen. It was in the silence that followed every casual comment, as if daring one of us to break the facade. One night, 2 days later, we sat on opposite ends of the couch watching some dumb action movie. We hadn't touched since that night, but the space between us throbbed like a wound. Halfway through, he reached over and grabbed the remote from beside me. His fingers brushed my thigh. Barely, but enough. My breath hitched. He noticed. And then he leaned back, eyes locked on the screen, as if nothing had just passed between us. I hated him for it, and wanted him more because of it. That night, I lay in bed scrolling through old photos of Nathan and me. Smiling in parks, kissing on rooftops, laughing in the kitchen we'd made ours. A life built on safety. Predictability. But even with those pictures in front of me, my mind replayed another set of images. Ryan's mouth on mine, his hands gripping my hips, the low groan in his throat when I whispered his name. Guilt gnawed at me, but it couldn't drown the desire. I told myself I wouldn't let it happen again. And then I heard it, the floor creaking outside my room. My heart stuttered. I held my breath. But the door didn't open. Instead, I heard Ryan's voice, soft through the wall. He was on the phone. I don't know, man. Yeah, he's here. It's been weird. Complicated. The pause. No, I'm not saying anything. It's not what I thought. Silence again. Then a sigh. Yeah. I still want him. That's the problem. My chest clenched. He wanted me. Still. But he wasn't sure what that meant. Neither was I. The next morning, I found a sticky note on the fridge. Out early. Needed space. Back later. R. I stared at the note for a long time, turning it over like it might offer more than what was written. It didn't. That was the day I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just lust. I was falling. And I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. I couldn't keep living in halves. The guilt had started small, fleeting moments, tight chests, eyes that wouldn't meet mirrors. But now, it had grown claws, wrapping itself around every breath I took. Every smile I offered Nathan through the phone felt like a lie carved into my skin. 3 days had passed since that night. Ryan and I danced around the memory like it might explode if named. We never touched again. Never kissed. But we didn't have to. The air between us remembered. And the silence screamed louder than words. Nathan was flying in the next day. He'd booked the trip as a surprise, messaged me late at night with a photo of his boarding pass and a caption that read, "Can't wait to kiss you again." I stared at that message until the screen dimmed on its own. I had to tell him. Not just because I loved him, but because I owed him the truth. No matter how ugly. That night, I found Ryan on the porch, legs pulled to his chest, cigarette dangling between his fingers. The stars were out, unbothered by the weight sitting on our shoulders. He didn't look at me as I sat beside him. "I'm going to tell him," I said quietly. Ryan exhaled. "Yeah, you should. You're not going to try to stop me?" He laughed without humor. "Why would I? We crossed a line. You have to own that." "So do I." Silence. "Do you regret it?" I asked. He finally turned to me. His eyes were tired but not empty. "No. But I hate that it cost you something real." I swallowed hard. "I don't even know what's real anymore." He stubbed the cigarette out and stood. "Then you better figure it out before tomorrow." And then he walked back inside, leaving me alone under the stars that felt too bright for the darkness in my chest. The next morning, I met Nathan at the airport. He spotted me before I could even fake a smile. His arms wrapped around me, familiar and safe and warm in a way that made my stomach twist with shame. "I missed you," he murmured into my hair. I said nothing. Not at first. We drove back in silence, his hand resting on my thigh, thumb brushing absent-mindedly. Every touch was a dagger. Every kind word, a bruise. At home, he dropped his bag by the door and turned to kiss me. I flinched. His smile faded. "Hey, what's wrong?" And finally I broke. Tears came fast, choking me. I backed away from him like I was contagious. "Nathan, I have to tell you something." He sat down slowly, his face still calm but cautious. "Talk to me." I couldn't look at him when I said it. I slept with Ryan. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. When I finally met his eyes, they were wide, stunned, like he'd been slapped but hadn't registered the sting yet. "When?" he asked. "For nights ago." "Here? In this house?" I nodded. He stood abruptly, pacing, fingers pressed to his temples like he was trying to hold his skull together. "My own brother?" His voice cracked. "I didn't plan it," I whispered. "It just happened." "You don't trip and fall into someone's bed," he snapped, eyes gleaming with something between betrayal and heartbreak. "I know." He laughed bitterly. "Do you? Because from here, it looks like you didn't even hesitate." "I did. I've been drowning in guilt since." "But you didn't stop," he cut in. "You let it happen. You let him happen." Tears burned down my cheeks. "I'm sorry," I said, the words useless even as they left my lips. "I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did." He stared at me like he was trying to see someone who no longer existed. Someone he used to trust. "Was it just once?" he asked. Just that one night." A long pause. "Do you love him?" The question shattered something inside me. "I don't know." He nodded, blinking hard. "That's worse than yes." Nathan grabbed his bag from the floor and walked toward the door. "I need space. Don't call. Don't text." "Nathan." He turned back one last time. "I loved you. All of you. Even your broken parts. But I won't stay somewhere I'm not safe." And then he was gone. The house was too quiet after that. I wandered through the rooms like a ghost. Every corner of it held a memory, both old and painfully new. That night, Ryan found me on the couch, curled up under a blanket that still smelled like Nathan's cologne. "He left," I said. He nodded slowly, regret in every line of his face. I figured. I told him everything. "I know. I heard." I looked at him. "Do you feel better now?" He looked away. "No. Do you?" I shook my head. He sat beside me, not too close. Just near enough to feel the heat of him. "I didn't mean to ruin you," he said softly. "You didn't. I did that myself." Another silence, but this one felt different. Not painful. Just honest. "What now?" I asked. Ryan didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was low, careful. "Now we sit in the wreckage." and figure out if something worth saving made it through the fire. I turned toward him, and for the first time since it all began, I let myself breathe. Not because everything was okay, but because, somehow, it wasn't the end. Not yet.